interesting graves to check out, and for the most part, I will say that they are more in reference to Silent Hill 4, which I don't want to spoil too much, especially with this particular tombstone right here, which I think I don't want to talk too much about as it might be a spoiler for Silent Hill 4, but another nearby tombstone might be more obvious in reference to this game directly, this one right here, as it's named Walter Sullivan, who you may remember from the Gossip magazine for having murdered the two children with axes. But what I find rather odd about this particular graveyard is that, having already been in the Toluca prison proper, we saw quite frankly that they didn't bury the bodies, that instead they just threw them down a hole. So, as to the actual meaning and symbolism behind this particular graveyard and the fact that perhaps these are just figurehead tombstones, especially considering these three, so aptly named headstones, as to whether or not these are all actually just placeholders to give the impression that anybody was actually ever buried here. It could also be representative, for those familiar with Dante's Inferno, of the center of hell being where they actually kept the worst of the worst, and that those people buried there, or supposedly buried there, were actually the real monsters of Silent Hill, as opposed to the poor prisoners that ended up being sacrificed.
Eddie, what are you doing? What does it look like? He always busted my balls. You fat, disgusting piece of shit. You make me sick. Fat ass, you're nothing but a waste of skin. You're so ugly, even your mama don't love you. Well, maybe he was right. Maybe I am nothing but a fat, disgusting piece of shit. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead. And the corpse can't laugh. From now on, if anyone makes fun of me, I'll kill him. Just like that.
Eddie, have you gone nuts?
I knew it. You too. You're just like him, James.
Hey, I didn't mean anything.
Don't bother. I understand. You've been laughing at me all along, haven't you? Ever since we first met. I'll kill you, James!
And we finally get our first real look at the real side of Eddie. And what better way to deal with one madman's execution styles than to use another executioner's weapon in the form of the giant knife. As you can see, it's a bit unwieldy, but the one major feature of it is that it's quite powerful. But we're actually not done with Eddie just yet. But this particular freezing room as sorts, littered with dead bodies, is more representative of what really is going on inside Eddie's mind.
Do you know what it does to you, James? When you're hated, picked on, spit on, just because of the way you look? why I ran away after I killed the dog. Ran away like a scared little girl. Yeah, I killed that dog. It was fun. It tried to chew its own guts out. Finally died all curled up in a ball. Then he came after me. I shot him too, right in the leg. He cried more than the dog. He's gonna have a hard time playing football on what's left of that knee.
You think it's okay to kill people? You need help, Eddie.
Don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. You and me are the same. We're not like other people. Don't you know that? Let's party!
And now, given a true audience to the hellish fantasy world that really reigns in Eddie's mind, normally Eddie would be kind of difficult to deal with, but the great knife really makes short work of him.
Eddie? Eddie? I killed a human being. A human being. Mary. Did you really die 3 years ago?
And with that, the Minotaur at the heart of the labyrinth has been slain. Normally, if Eddie is able to get off probably 2 or 3 shots, James would actually be dead. But normally his AI tends to run in and keep punching you, which actually does a very minimal amount of damage. So that's why I chose to use the Great Knife and try to show that off a bit, as it's not really that useful in normal combat. But we are on the far side of the Toluca Lake prison, apparently back on ground level, and right at Toluca Lake itself. So, I guess that actually was the center of not only Eddie, but also the center of the labyrinth itself. Now, I do apologize right here, because I guess I had my saves mixed up, but this is supposed to be the second location of where you would use the UFO beacon of sorts. But if you have not actually used the first location, it won't actually allow you to use it here at the second location. But keep in mind, I will still be showing off that ending whenever we come to it. For right now, though, we are done with the prison, and we are done with this video, so see you next time for more Silent Hill 2.